Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back to the farm. It is a balmy minus 16 degrees here this morning. Quite lovely out. 76% humidity, so makes things a little frosty. I tried to put a YouTube video yesterday, so sorry for that if you were missing it. It just didn't happen. I just could not get it to upload. Just technical difficulties. I'll try and upload that one later so you don't miss anything. But what I was actually talking about was the quality of hay. This bale in particular we're finding was maybe on the outside of the field. I'm not too sure, but it's full of sticks and clover. Not that great. So I'll try and upload that one later. We got a pretty busy day on the farm here today. Right off the gate, we're going to fly to the bumblebee. Let's do chores. And then we're going to head out to Rio Grande to my in-laws. And the reason for that is, if you recall, last week they were having issues with their water well. So we actually dropped the pump further down in the well because they were running out of water. Turns out they were running out of water because they actually had a water break out on the other side of their corrals, which we didn't really realize at the time. So moral of the story there is always double check. And then subsequently what happened, all that water overflowed, got the electrical stuff below the water itself really wet, started a small electrical fire, blew a bunch of breakers. And so I had to go back out and help rewire up the water. Plugged everything back in. All the lights on the cords lit up. And I did say to the father-in-law, I said, well, it's lit up, but I just didn't get time to check, if it actually warmed up before, he turned the water back on. Well, it turns out, the actual heating element in the bottom wasn't heating up. So he's changed the element and it's still not working. So I guess the moral of the story there is, again, double check your work. Funny how that works, eh? So we're gonna head out there again today, and now that it's cold, I could have done this when it was warm, like a smart person, but no, we're gonna go back out there now, redo the work we did already. But I better feed the sheep here first. As you can see, they're definitely crying for their breakfast. So what I was talking about yesterday in regards to the quality of the hay coming off this bale and how I think it was off the outside of the field. We're seeing lots of this, like, sticks. This is I think this is red willow is what this is, and lots of it in the hay. So I clean this all out, scoop it all out, and actually what I do is I just take and I break this up. I put it in the chicken house because it's a great source of carbon, right? I mean, that's exactly what we want to balance that chicken manure and everything in there. So waste not, want not. But it is pretty disappointing that you drive halfway across the next province to buy hay, and what you get is not that great. But for the most part, most of these bales are actually really good. But there's a few that were definitely either baled in a swamp or baled on the edge of the field where the quality was a little bit lower. How you doing there, big fella? Hey, Irene. Hi, Thelma. So I can honestly say this morning's actually the first morning this season anyways where the air actually hurts my face. Start questioning your life choices when you're coming out to do chores 2 or 3 times a day, and it just stings. But the weather's been actually quite warm and very windy. We really haven't had much in the way of snowfall or any form of precipitation. We did get a little bit of rain, but not enough to do anything. And over on the shop, we've got a water trough underneath the eaves trough, and it's been called the no-fill water trough forever because there's always been enough snow or enough rainfall landing on that roof and melting off or running off. It's kept that water trough full. But subsequent to the drought we had this summer, and now sure, there's snow on the ground, but when you get a 40-mile-an-hour wind, it blows everything off the roof, and then nothing will melt and then land in the trough. So I'm actually just coming to the tack shed here to grab a garden hose because I'm not accepting defeat. I will just say this is an obstacle, but I'm gonna have to fill the water trough so that they have water for the day. First time ever. So I just came over here to the outside tap on the shop and frozen solid. There's no sun today. Usually you get a couple hours of sunlight shining on the building. That's all it takes to defrost that outside tap. So I guess I'm gonna have to pack buckets from inside all the way around. A little extra work, but that's what you gotta do, I guess. Well, I packed 2 pails. That was enough for this. That was enough for me. I'm gonna work smarter, not work harder. So I'm gonna go get my heat gun out of the shop here, and I'm just gonna defrost that valve. And then I think, because we're only, what are we now? 4th of December, 5th of December, something like that. Early on, really, in winter. And if we do continue on to a drought, I'm gonna need to have a long-term solution for using that tap in the wintertime. Which means I probably gotta get some spray foam and insulate that valve better on the inside of the building so that the cold can't push its way in. Now, getting into a tin wall like this and re-insulating and making sure a valve doesn't freeze is probably, well, it sounds a lot harder than it actually is. When we built the shop, I actually left a cutout piece of tin like this because installation of the valve was technically an afterthought, or, well, it wasn't really an afterthought, but I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it, and so I did it last. And so in doing so, you know, there's kind of a gap there in the insulation where this come through. What it does allow me to do is get in there with a heat gun, and we're going to get this thing defrosted. And once it's defrosted, I think I got a couple cans of monofoam or a similar product to monofoam anyways. And we are going to fill this thing up with foam so that we have no more freezing issues. And I'm going to leave this plate off until I can prove that it actually works. That was about 30 seconds with the heat gun. Got a little bit of water, just a trickle. The ice plug just come out. We're back in business. So now I can just fill the trough up with the garden hose. And that's one thing I would really encourage everybody, because this is hard, right? Packing water is hard. It's the bane of my existence. It's one reason why we didn't want to keep pigs in the winter, because there's no water down there. And so now to have to do it here makes things difficult, makes things inconvenient, makes things hard. And when things are hard or inconvenient, people have to make a choice. And sometimes that choice is, well, let's just not do it, right? When it comes to animal welfare, you have to do it. So when you're forced to do something that you don't like to do, what happens? You lose your passion. And, well, nobody wants to do that, right? That kind of goes against the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish here. So I would encourage everybody to look at their inputs on their farm and really consider what's eating your lunch. What is it, the one thing you don't enjoy doing but you have to do, and focus your energy there in terms of trying to find a better way or an easier way or more simpler way perhaps to get it done. And that's what this really was intended to be, you know, the water coming off the back of the shop. But it doesn't mean that we don't, you know, this can be relied on 100%. You still have to have a contingency plan. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any monofoam, spray foam stuff to put in around the inside of that valve. But we are going to Grand Prairie later today to watch Christmas lights and pick up some more sausage casings. Because yes, tomorrow we're going to make a whole pile, like 30 pounds of sausage from our pigs here, as well as some leftover ground pork from previous year. Pretty excited about that. So while I'm in the Canadian Tire getting that, might as well pick up a can of spray foam and solve this problem today. So I'm just over here now at the father-in-law's place. We snuck over to help fix the water. Turns out I owe him a beer. The other night when we rewired everything back together after it all had a big meltdown, I missed the wire way back in the junction box. So it wasn't connected, so the element wasn't working. The heat trace was working. So everything's back and working now, that's good. And then he got called away to work, that's why I'm in the tractor. He asked me to come feed the cows. So he's got a whole bunch of silage bales, hay bales, and some straw bales, all with molasses dumped on them. I'm just running out to the field here. It's kind of nice being in the big Kubota tractor here, because the radio works, the heater works, the brakes work. Like, it's just night and day comparison to the old Deutz at our place. So I just thought I'd come check on this water that we were fixing earlier today, see if everything's still working. And that's not the kind of noise we wanted it to make. So it's looking like perhaps my work's not done here. First thing I had to do was just check the breaker panel in the barn. Everything's where it's supposed to be. So in theory, there should be power out there again. I'll go lift the lid off the top of that water. see just what the heck is happening here. It looks like, when you pop this open, down in there, there's that switch right there. And when I put the lid back down the last time, looks like the hose actually tripped the switch and killed the power to everything. That's not what we want at all. Of course, now all the horses come walking up wanting a drink of water. Well, they're gonna have to go away up by the pole shed there to get a drink. But we'll keep this gate closed for now. They'll be able to go up through there and get a drink of water. This, I think, now I know the switch is on, the heating element's on, everything's just doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's still going to be at least an hour until it defrosts, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. When the father-in-law gets home from work, he can check it, and should be working for him. Well, the good news is, you look down here, you can see things are starting to move a little bit, starting to cook, so we definitely know there's heat coming from that element down below. So I feel pretty comfortable walking away from this and calling her good. Well, we did get away to Grand Prairie and had dinner with the family, saw some Christmas lights. Now we're back home. I just finished up doing evening chores. It's down as low as -20 right now. I think we're supposed to get to 22 this evening, or by morning at least anyways, which is not exactly my cup of tea. But speaking of cup of tea, I should probably run in and get myself one. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.